Believe me when I say that you don't understand how deep the influence of Kenjaku on the Jujutsu Kaisen series is. Without Kenjaku Jujutsu, Kaisen wouldn't even exist. He is literally the main reason half of the cast even exists. Furthermore, every arc in the series is planned and orchestrated by him. Even Sukuna, the king of curses, a cannibal who ate his twin in their mother's womb, admits that Kenjaku is crazy. So sit back, relax, and let's take an updated and detailed look at Kenjaku's role and influence. Kenjaku is an ancient curse user who has existed for over 1,000 years using his innate technique, which allows him to transplant his brain into other people to control them. He has inhabited different individuals throughout the centuries and took their identities. Among those he has possessed include the Blight of the Kamo clan, who created the Cursed Womb, Death Paintings, Noritoshi Kamo, the mother of Yuji Itadori, Kaori Itadori, and Suguru Geto. While Kenjaku is one of the main antagonists of the series, he doesn't always use raw power to achieve his goals. He tricks and manipulates people instead. Kenjaku literally applies every type of manipulation you can imagine. He takes manipulating people to an entire new level. He doesn't intentionally intimidate anyone or control people through fear to get them to serve his interests. He manipulates them in clever ways, using his charm to convince them they share a common goal. Kenjaku uses basic manipulation strategies, like when he promised Mimiko and Nanako that he will give back Geto's corpse if they help him seal Gojo, or when he promised ancient sorcerers a second life just to reincarnate them and throw them to die in the Culling Games. However, Kenjaku takes manipulation to an entirely new level. He tracked the reincarnated soul of Sukuna's twin, Jin Itadori. Kenjaku then took over his wife's body and procreated with him, giving birth to Yuji Itadori, the main protagonist of the series. Now, my personal favorite and genius move that Kenjaku pulled is when he intentionally created a bug in the Calling Games. Kenjaku added 2 rules that Kogen refused to add because they interfered with the original rules. However, Kenjaku threatened to destroy the purification barrier if Kogen didn't add the 2 rules, which would end the Culling Games instantly. However, Kenjaku's moves didn't start in the present or 20 years ago. In fact, we don't know his exact age. We're certain that he is more than 1,000 years old because Kenjaku knew Sukuna in the Hein era. He is the one who showed Sukuna how to transform himself into cursed objects. On top of that, in chapter 258, it's revealed that Kenjaku intentionally procreated with the reincarnated soul of Sukuna's twin, Jin Itadori, and gave birth to Yuji Itadori with the goal of creating a strong vessel that can host Sukuna, plus Yuji will be an additional player in the Culling Games. So Kenjaku is responsible for the existence of both Yuji and Sukuna in the Jujutsu Kaisen story. Kenjaku gave birth to the protagonist of the story and reincarnated the main antagonist of the story. However, Kenjaku's influence doesn't stop here. For more than 1,000 years, Kenjaku has been trying to create something that surpasses both cursed spirits and humans, something that cannot even be imagined by Kenjaku himself. Throughout his years of experiments, Kenjaku could not truly create something that was far beyond his own expectations, and that's because every time he tried to create something, it was based on knowledge he already knew in order to create a result that he could already hypothesize. This fact was confirmed to Kenjaku when the experiment of the data paintings was a failure. This experiment was conducted 150 years ago when Kenjaku took over Noritoshi Kamo's body. After discovering a woman with a special genetic composition that allowed her to bore a half-human and half-cursed child, Kenjaku forced the woman and her child to become prisoners of his intellectual curiosity. The woman had 9 pregnancies and 9 abortions. This experiment was a failure because Kenjaku wasn't able to create a superior form than humans or cursed spirits. We saw the result of this experiment when Mahito and Kenjaku incarnated them, granting Eso, Kichizu, and Choso new flesh and blood vessels. So, Kenjaku is responsible for the existence of Eso, Kichizu, and Choso. On top of that, we know that Yuji consumed the remaining death paintings wombs, giving him the ability to use piercing blood. Furthermore, Kenjaku is responsible for the growth of the disaster curses, Jogo, Mahito, Hanami, and Dagon. Without his help, Gojo would have destroyed all of them in a couple of minutes. For instance, Kenjaku not only allied with the disaster curses to work towards a world ruled by curses, he befriended and mentored them. We see Kenjaku play board games and spend quality time with them. On top of that, he acted as a mentor. At the start of the series, the disaster curses, while being tremendously powerful, they had the mental capacity of a child. They didn't know who Sukuna or Gojo is, and they had little knowledge about cursed energy. Kenjaku allied with them, and to serve his goals, he played the role of a mentor. He taught them everything about cursed energy, from domain expansion to the more advanced techniques, like domain amplification, which is a technique that can be used against Gojo's limitless technique. And we see Kenjaku focuses more on mentoring Mahito and help him to evolve because he has the most potential. However, at the end of the Shibuya incident, we see the real motives of Kenjaku. He even thanked Yuji for the fight with Mahito that allowed him to evolve and discover the true essence of his soul, which is something that Kenjaku was waiting for. Plus, Yuji weakened Mahito, allowing Kenjaku to easily absorb him. In fact, Kenjaku's only regret was that he couldn't absorb Jogo before he died. Basically, Kenjaku mentored Mahito, especially during his fights against Nanami. He was the mastermind behind the Kyoto Goodwill event arc and the entirety of the Shibuya arc. Kenjaku then launches the Culling Games and reincarnates hundreds of ancient players, so literally, he is the reason more than half of the cast exists in the story. Now, there's one point that we need to discuss, which is if Kenjaku's plan from the start was the big merger, then why bother with useless experiments like the death painting wombs? Well, I think Kenjaku had more of an idea rather than a true plan. He's obviously had plans for the Culling Games for centuries, but I feel like outside of that, Kenjaku has been winging it or experimenting with ways to achieve his goals. Like, in regards to Tengen evolving, he's tried twice before to kill the user of the Six Eyes, Limitless, and the Star Plasma Vessel, and the first time he was defeated, and the second when he killed both as infants, others took their place. That's when he decided to look for the prison realm. And, as Yuki says, he was given a golden ticket when Toji killed Riko. Then another golden ticket when Geto died, and then another when Mahito was born. Essentially, all the puzzle pieces were available for Kenjaku to execute his plan, otherwise he would have still been waiting for the chance to achieve his dream. Furthermore, while Yuta killed Kenjaku in chapter 249, I think that he can still play a role in the endgame. If you remember during the Shibuya incident and while Mechamaru was dead for days, he was able to help Yuji. So maybe Kenjaku sealed a part of his soul or consciousness with Tengen's womb, and when Sukuna starts the merger, we'll see a part of Kenjaku's soul take over Tengen, or even take over the merger's brain. Honestly, I don't know exactly what would happen, but Kenjaku likely transferred part of his soul to Tengen's womb. After all, no one knows more about souls in Jujutsu Kaisen than Kenjaku. Sealing and reincarnating sorcerers is literally his specialty. To think that a person who had more than 1,000 years to plan for the merger, reincarnated hundreds of sorcerers and tracked the reincarnated soul of Sukuna's twin can't perform a simple sorcery ritual similar to what Mechamaru did is just naive. Anyway, I think we'll see soon.